The NBA might have a winner on its hands. It just might not include Nikola Jokic. We're going to talk about the NBA All-Star Game. We're going to talk about some news and notes around the NBA, including abolishing the draft. And then we're going to get into the post-All-Star break conversation here on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, parts of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, being an everydayer, making us your first listen as we get into the first post-All-Star break podcast covering the Denver Nuggets. My name is Ryan Blackburn, host here at Locked On Nuggets. Swipa is currently traveling. Matt is currently got the night off. We will be back later this week in preparation for the Nuggets post All-Star break schedule. So I'm taking it solo tonight. We're going to discuss the All-Star game. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of other things as well. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Interesting things to discuss here as we are on the late parts of the All-Star game and the All-Star break. A new format that came out. Obviously, Matt was with you guys last night. He discussed Jamal Murray and the All-Star in the three-point contest. That didn't go necessarily as well for him as he was hoping for. But the All-Star game was always going to be an interesting one after the formats and different things that happened over the course of Saturday. By the way, having these things in the afternoon, a completely different thing from where they were previously. I actually kind of like it. I just wish we were told in advance because I missed some of the stuff that happened yesterday. I was with my family trying to enjoy the All-Star break as much as I could and then ultimately missed some of the festivities. But they had the All-Star game earlier today in the middle of the afternoon. I think it started at 3:00 and the format was different. Obviously, it was a different thing that they're trying with Team World versus two different Team USA teams, those splitting up and trying to come up with an equitable balance of talent and competition and things like that. And it was interesting. It was a dynamic way for them to do it. And I think provided a little bit of competitiveness, a little bit of amped up nature for some of these guys. I mean, Victor Wembanyama very clearly up for it. Early in that game, Anthony Edwards, Cade Cunningham in the first team. I think that was the Stars team, the younger team. Tyrese Maxey was on that team. Jalen Duren was the starting center of that team. So you had those guys, and they ultimately win in that first matchup against Team World, which had for that first game, Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Denny Avdia. Who was the other starter? Was it Towns? It might have been Towns in that lineup, and then it was Murray. It was an interesting lineup, an interesting rotation that the team. Oh no, it was Luka. It was Luka in that first bit. You had Luka, you had Jokic, you had Murray, you had Jokic, and you had Wemby. And of those guys, I think the only guy who really acquitted himself well was Wemby. He played great. It was nice to see Wemby take it seriously. He said he would from the outset, and that was very clear. But ultimately, what happened in that group was Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic, whether they are on, I think Luka was definitely on a minutes restriction. Not sure whether Jokic was on a minutes restriction, but clearly he only played 5 minutes in the first game and then was unable or didn't want to come back into the game for the rest of the time. And look, this is a difficult part of the conversation because on one hand, like there's so many different angles that you can take from this. Here's the macro angle for fans as a whole. They're pretty disappointed in Jokic and Luka, and they have a right to be. Like, you want to see those guys, especially in a competitive environment where all of these other players are playing pretty hard. It's pretty noticeable when some guys are not. And Jokic and Luka were clearly kind of phoning it in, playing a very small, not super difficult, like not great performance overall. I'll just say that. While other guys are playing hard and they got out to that run, and then the minute they go off the floor, it's actually funny. Like Team World made a run. Wemby was great. Murray set the table for Wemby in those minutes. Norman Powell made some plays. You had some other guys that stepped up. Karl Anthony Towns had a couple threes, and that game came down to the wire. Ultimately, Team World lost in overtime because there was a breakdown in communication on perimeter defense. Karl Anthony Towns, I think, misses a rotation. It was either him or Alperen Şengün. And then it was Scotty Barnes, of all people, who hit a game-winning three in overtime, which is hilarious. So that's the macro view. Fans, I think, can be pretty disappointed in the way that Jokic and Luka played. The micro view, the focus on what the player actually wants and what the player is actually thinking about. Jokic and Luka both coming off of injuries. Jokic, a little bit less of an excuse in that because he did play for 7 games before like going into the All-Star break. But you can understand, like, he had just been out for a month. He was clearly not necessarily wanting to go hard and get up and down in this case. And like, you just want to avoid injury in all cases. And if the Nuggets have a long view on this, then of course they want to see those guys do well. And you want to see those guys play for as long as possible and be as healthy as possible when the time comes. So, like, it wasn't great. It didn't look awesome. And I think Nuggets fans probably don't feel great about it in general. Now, this happens every time. This happens every year. Jokic has never really given like full amped up effort, but it was more noticeable this time around because other guys really started to try. Other guys really started to play hard. And I do think I think it's fine to play hard. I think it's good. I think it's awesome to see guys care about something and make it so that it is meaningful. For Jokic and for Luka, it's not super meaningful. And I got to be honest, like for those guys specifically, there's been a lot of criticism levied at them by the NBA, by NBA fans and different fan bases and things. They haven't been in the club in a lot of ways for some of these other players. And like they aren't necessarily like they've been treated and ostracized in some ways. And I don't necessarily feel like for them, like they don't necessarily have to feel like they have to give back to the game or anything like that. They're showing up and trying to play basketball. And it's like the entire show around it is what some people like, but it's not what they're here for. So I understand if they're not going out of their ways to do anything crazy. That's all I'll say about that. As for Jamal Murray, really rough performance in the first game. Really rough. It looked like he was kind of a deer in the headlights out there, not necessarily making great decisions with the ball in his hands. Looked like he got blocked under the rim a couple of times and not necessarily his best showing. I thought he played a lot better in the second game. He calmed himself down a little bit, made some plays off the dribble. Unfortunately for Team World, it was Kawhi Leonard who just completely dominated that second game. It was an actually unbelievable for performance. Like 32 points in 12 minutes? That's crazy. That is absolutely insane. And in that, 32 points in 13 minutes, and Team World in that stretch scored 45, but the team that featured Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, they scored more than enough. Jalen Brunson had made some plays. Kevin Durant made an important 3 later in that game, but really it was 31 points in 12 minutes for Kawhi Leonard, which was crazy. Murray in that one had 8 points, 4 assists in 10 minutes, did a good job of kind of setting the table for everybody else. I think that Denny Avdia was horrible in that stretch, although he was on the floor for some good minutes, which is why his plus minus looks all right. But the bench came in for Team World and they just kind of lost it. There are some turnovers that happened, some mistakes that happened all in a row. And Kawhi Leonard just caught a heater and Team World couldn't stop it. So look, I think it's good that those teams cared. Like, I really do think it's good. And it's clear that there was maybe not animosity, but certainly some competitive pride in terms of Team USA looking at Team World and being like, okay, we're gonna tell those guys like where they're at. And like, I think there's a graphic or a picture that's going around of all 5 of Jokic, Wemby, Luka, Giannis, and Shea, all like sitting in the middle of the Team World picture. And that was clearly on purpose. Unfortunately, only one of those guys played really hard, and it was Wemby. Like, Jokic phoned it in. Luka had a minutes restriction. Shea and Giannis were out, and really Wemby was the only guy who really gave his all in that game. And so until Team World has guys like, especially at the top level there, like those particular guys, until those guys are actually going to give their best, Team USA is going to keep winning this kind of competition. So I think that this is going to stick around for a couple of years. It wouldn't surprise me if this exact format stays. The thing about when the Elam ending happened after Kobe Bryant's passing, there was a lot of like emotion about that and a lot of feelings surrounding that moment that got people to play very hard with that different format. And it was there for a couple of years, and a couple of years later, people were just not playing as hard anymore. So it is going to take more than just this format, I think, to get them to play hard consistently. I think that Wemby will continue to play hard, and congratulations to Anthony Edwards, who won the All-Star Game MVP. He played hard that entire time. And like, it's clear that there are guys that are going to take it seriously. So look, here's hoping that the next generation of guys, whether it's Cade and Wemby and Ant and guys of that nature, here's hoping that they can amp it up. Like, I think that's good for everybody if this is a competitive game. And it was. Like, it sucks for Team World because they were, and it sucks for Nuggets fans because yeah, I don't know. It sucks for Nuggets fans because obviously you want to see Jokic and Murray play well, and Murray played decently in one game and poorly in another, and then Jokic didn't play at all. Cedric says, Ryan, do you think SGA versus Jokic will happen in the playoffs? We'll see. I don't know. We'll talk about that in the third segment a little bit. When we come back, let's discuss some news and notes from around All-Star Weekend, some things that came out over the course of these last few days. Some things are serious and some things are burner funny, we'll say. We'll be right back here on Locked On Nuggets. But first, folks, let's talk about, sorry, I forgot to set this up real quick. Let's talk about FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll be automatically entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, and the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team could make it run, maybe it's the Nuggets, maybe it's some team that's in kind of your hometown. If you're not in Denver, this is the perfect time to lock that in. I love futures this time of year, and whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title, it adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. All right, we are back. Locked On Nuggets, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Folks, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Also, if you're interested, Everyday Club has been bumping. I have not checked in over the course of the weekend. I was trying to stay away from as much basketball as I could during that stretch until watching the All-Star game. But I will have more content for Everyday Club. If you're interested, go check it out. LockedOnNuggets.supercast.com. The first link in the description, where you can get ad-free episodes, as well as access to the Discord and all the articles and extra content. I'm going to be putting up one of the things I do. I am now making exclusive to Everyday Club the 2-man net rating charts that I like to put up, as well as a place where you can access all of the rotations. Every single one of the rotation charts that I put up, it'll be in the Everyday Club, and I'll have that uploaded by tomorrow. Okay, let's talk about some news and notes, some different things that came out around the NBA over the course of this weekend. The first thing is expansion. I'm not sure if Matt covered this on last night's episode, but Very important, I think, for the expansion discussion to happen. It's been in the back burner for the NBA for a while. Open secret that it's been Seattle and Las Vegas over the course of these last couple years. There have been other sites that have been discussed, but it seems very clear that Seattle, that Las Vegas would be the teams, would be the locations for both of those expansion sites. Not going to be for a couple of years, not going to be in a situation where like Denver has to deal with an expansion draft right away or anything like that. But it is something that they've got to think about. And it is something where the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Memphis Grizzlies, or the New Orleans Pelicans, one of those teams is going to head to the Eastern Conference at some point. And once there are 32 teams, there's going to be some sort of conference and divisional realignments. And so I'm very curious what those four divisions would ultimately look like, where Denver would ultimately be in that conversation. I think that basically, well, there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. I think one of the ways is to have Minnesota and Denver and OKC and Utah stay in that kind of mountain continental division. Another is to put Denver and OKC and Utah along with a team like Phoenix and move Minnesota to the Eastern Conference and then shift things that way. There's no clean solution to it for the Nuggets. Just know that you're going to be tied to the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Utah Jazz no matter what, because there's no real way for those expansion and those realignments to differ in any way, shape, or form. So I'm curious what that's ultimately going to look like for the NBA. Let me know down in the comments and let me know in the live chat what you think of expansion. Is there a different city that you would have picked, or is there a specific like divisional layout that you would like for Denver to have? I would assume it's going to be 4 divisions of 4 teams and 2 conferences. And so that's how you break it down, very similar to where the NFL does it right now. So I always love doing this conversation because it makes it more fun to talk about what the schedule then looks like and then how the NBA is going to start designing that. And I love that conversation. I think that's really fascinating for sure. The other, tanking. Tanking has been discussed. Adam Silver was asked earlier this weekend about the tanking penalties that were given out to Utah and to Brooklyn. No, it wasn't to Brooklyn. It was one of the other teams. But most certainly Utah. They've been at the center of all of this for sure, where Lauri Markkanen getting benched in the fourth quarter of a very close game, Jaren Jackson getting benched in the fourth quarter of a close game. Same thing with Yusuf Nurkic. And like, it's interesting because Jaren Jackson's now going to be out for the season. They found something in his medical and they've decided, we're going to shut you down. There are a lot of people that were initially making the joke of like, are they doing this for tanking reasons? I don't think that that's tanking. I think that they actually found something that's pretty serious. And it's just not something that you test for initially in some of these cases. But I think that the tanking conversation is so interesting because to me, it doesn't matter that much. It doesn't, like, to a lot of people, it does. To a lot of people, it's all about competitive integrity and things like that. It maybe used to matter more to me. But like now, if you're that bad, like it doesn't guarantee you anything. I understand that there's a lot of people that are worried about the competitive image of the NBA and things like that. In the NFL, in the MLB, in NHL, there are blowouts all the time. And there are teams that are clearly not at the top of their games all the time. And you have these crooked scores and you have these horrible situations where teams, like their mentality shifts throughout the year. And a lot of times it's not necessarily about the wins. They're trying to develop their young players. Is tanking, like, hypothetically, if the Oklahoma City Thunder were like a few years ago before they got good, like if they played Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and then they decided, you know what, we're not going to play Shai. We've already seen what we need to see from him. We're going to play everybody else. We're going to play all of our other young guys. And we're not going to care about whether we win or lose. We're not going to actively try to lose, but we're certainly not going to try to win. Is that horrible? It certainly helped them in terms of figuring out who they had and what they needed, and helped make Lou Dort a better player among others. And There's a couple of other guys that are sticking with them. Jalen Williams, the big Jalen Williams, they figured that out pretty easily. So I just don't think it's as big of a deal. And if you're a good organization, it doesn't last that long. Now for Utah, it has lasted too long, which is one of the reasons why they traded for Jaren Jackson in the first place. So it'll be interesting to see. One of the ways that Adam Silver talked about combating tanking, according to Joe Varden of The Athletic, was potentially abolishing the NBA draft in the first place. To me, that is a fascinating conversation because the draft is so integrated into all four major sports. It's in the NFL, of course, but in NHL, MLB, and of course, the NBA. I don't know, like, if you are the NBA, if you are in this situation where, like, you've seen all of this tanking, you've seen all of this, and like it feels worse than it probably actually is. Like, I just don't think that going to those lengths would be that big of a deal. But it's not the worst idea in the world. Like, think about the draft in the first place. There's a lot of people and a lot of folks that are morally, kind of ethically against the draft as a thing in the first place. It's removing the free will of these young players who are trying to do the best for their careers. And then you get stuck with a whole bunch of teams or a whole bunch of players in really awful situations. And it's actually interesting. The number one overall pick has very rarely ended up in a good situation where they could win a championship for that team. It just doesn't happen anymore. So I wonder if there is something to that as an idea. It would have to be fleshed out. And I think that there would have to be major restrictions in terms of what certain teams could offer. Like, it has to be within the cap. It has to be like, maybe there's a rookie draft exception or something of that nature, and you get a cap hold. But like the team that is in last place in the entire NBA gets the most amount of money that they throw out in terms of what their rookie salary cap hold would be. But if you are a team, or if you're a player that's like, I'd rather go to the Denver Nuggets and play with Nikola Jokic than go to the Charlotte Hornets and play with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller and guys like that. Like, if you're a Nuggets fan, maybe you'd like that. It's not the worst idea in the world if you could get an opportunity there, but it would be it would be pretty tough, and it would make it very easy for teams like the Lakers and larger markets to excel over and over and over again. So I don't know. There's a lot of pros and cons, and mostly cons, I would say. Finally, in this section, Kevin Durant's burner got leaked. I'm not going to share a whole bunch of messages on here, but like, it is really funny. He has a personal group chat, apparently. Like, I don't know how much this has been reported, but Kevin Durant, his burner and his group chat has been leaked on I'm talking a whole bunch of crap about teammates, about opponents, and just, like, doing what Kevin Durant would normally do, but like doing it in a much stronger way, in a private manner that he probably shouldn't have let get out, and still it got out anyway. This is not the first time that this has happened, obviously, if you're very familiar with the Kevin Durant burner saga. But good Lord, like, how does this keep happening to this guy? Why does he do this? He's already so verbose online, like on Twitter overall, but like, he's clearly just like getting into this with everybody. I mean, he was calling out Alperen Şengün. He's calling out Jabari Smith, calling him dumb. Like, he called Alperen Şengün fat. Like, he's like, he doing the worst, the most for like disrupting team chemistry and things like that. So, and he did call out Jokic. He was like, talking about Jokic turnovers, things like that through this burner, just like making jokes about it. So, like, does it matter? No. Is it why the NBA is hilarious and full of drama? Yes. Could this actually could this actually like affect the Houston Rockets in some way, shape, or form? Yeah. And you guys are right. Obviously, he did not just call Jabari Smith dumb. It was way worse than that, and I won't get into that on here. Okay. Go check that out if you're interested. There's a pretty clear issue going on with the Houston Rockets locker room right now. All right, let's take another break. When we come back, how about we discuss the post-All-Star break stretch for the Denver Nuggets and what you can look forward to as a Nuggets fan. We'll be right back here on Locked On Nuggets. All right, folks, let's talk about Indeed. Always appreciate the folks over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inboxes overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, there is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for with the skills, experience, and location. So you're not just hoping for the right candidate to stumble through the door. Like, here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All you got to do is check out the Indeed Sponsored Jobs, and listeners to the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed through this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hire? That's why Indeed Sponsored Jobs is right for you. We're also brought to you today by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you have more taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. A personal anecdote here. My personal taxes are getting a little complicated. They're more complicated than I've ever had them because I've got a couple of different things going on, obviously. And having somebody who can just sift through all of that, cut through all the noise, and give you the exact numbers that you're looking for and the exact return that you're looking for is extremely valuable. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver. For a limited time, you can get all your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. All right, final segment of Locked On Nuggets. Thank you so much, folks, for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. All right, what's the message going on right here? Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of folks that are mad at me. Okay, is the burner like 100% confirmed? No. I'm just sharing what was shared with me. All right. Okay, let's talk about the post-All-Star break stretch for the Nuggets now. It is post-All-Star break, and it does seem to me like, okay, you've got 55 games, 27 games left. I wrote an article for Mile High Sports that I will kind of pull from here. Mile High Sports earlier last week did a lot of things to try to highlight what the numbers were for Denver. The Nuggets' first 12 games was really good. It was really good. They were 10-2 during that stretch. They were healthy. And then they got to be not healthy, where Christian Brown goes down, Aaron Gordon goes down, Denver's defense struggles. They rally back against some shaky competition and then ultimately kind of bow back up and don't necessarily have the best showing from a defensive standpoint, from a win standpoint. Then Jokic gets hurt, Gordon gets back. Denver starts to play better defense, but they struggle on offense, obviously, because, hey, when you're missing Jokic and you're missing a couple centers and you have to work as hard as you do on the defensive end just to survive, then you're going to struggle on the offensive end. But they did manage to survive. They did a really good job against some of the worse, not worse, but like some pretty subpar competition during that stretch, but they did a good job. And now when Jokic comes back heading into the All-Star break, they struggle. They're 3-4 in their last 7 games while Jokic played. A few of those games were not against great competition, including the Memphis Grizzlies in this last one, but against the teams that were really good, like OKC, like Cleveland, like New York, and like Detroit. They lost all those games and couldn't pull out any of them. So Denver, I think, in this post-All-Star break stretch has some things to prove. They've got some things that they really need to figure out, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. What I'm not necessarily concerned about is the offense. I think when Jokic is out there, when everybody is mostly healthy, like the offense is just absolutely killer. They know what they're doing. There's going to be very little that they have to figure out from that perspective. It's just the defense, and especially without Gordon out there, I don't know what they're ultimately going to look like. I hope they look great with Spencer Jones. I hope that Spencer Jones is a big factor there, where he comes back post All-Star break with a contract in hand. He's currently ineligible for playing for the Nuggets, and that sucks because the Nuggets could absolutely need a power forward right now, and they don't have one that they trust. They're going to play small until Spencer Jones gets a contract. I'll go ahead and predict that Spencer Jones gets a contract on Wednesday. That'll be my official prediction. I thought it might happen on the last Wednesday. It didn't ultimately happen. Denver decided, you know what, it's fine. He's got a concussion, and we also have to wait a little bit. But we'll see what happens with the Spencer Jones contract, because that would obviously be a major factor for the Nuggets during this stretch. Heading out of the All-Star break, Denver doesn't have a very easy schedule. They go back to Intuit Dome, funny enough. It's funny. Jokic and Murray are going to fly back to Denver, I assume, during this stretch, unless they're going to take a couple days and go to a beach somewhere. And then they are going to fly back to LA to face the Clippers. Then they fly immediately to Portland. Then they fly immediately to Golden State. Then they come back home and they play versus Boston. Then they go on the road and they go to OKC. It's a really great start. And so does it get much easier after that? No. Then they come home versus Minnesota and they play a back-to-back at Utah. That one should be easy. They'll find a way to make it difficult. Then they come home. They play the Lakers, the Knicks, go at the Thunder for a 1-game road trip again, come back and face the Rockets. Then they face the Spurs, the Lakers, the Sixers, and then you start to get into the Grizzlies and the Raptors and the Trailblazers and some relatively easier mix of teams. The long and short of it is that the Nuggets are going to be tested immediately, like absolutely immediately. I think that until they get this defense under control, until they can really lock in on that end and have some guys playing consistently on that end, they're going to be playing about 500 to like 50% to 60% win rate on a consistent basis. It's not going to be any better than that. Over the course of the last 40 games or so, they started the year 10-2. They're currently 35-20. So you can do the math. They are 25-18 since that stretch. It's slightly better than 60%, but it's not by that much. And they've been trending kind of worse over the course of that stretch. And part of it is because of exhaustion and injuries and everything like that. Hopefully the All-Star break really helps them clear out of that, but we'll see. It's not a guarantee. And if you're the Nuggets, the most important thing you can do is get that rest, really start to refocus on the defensive end of the floor, and see if you can find ways to string together wins. If Spencer Jones comes back and if he is like in the lineup, Jokic, Murray, Christian Brown, Cam Johnson, Peyton Watson, Spencer Jones? I don't know which of those guys sits. Obviously, Jokic and Murray aren't. I think that Cam Johnson and Christian Brown are likely to have their spots. Peyton Watson will probably start, and Spencer Jones will likely come off the bench. But really, Spencer Jones, if he comes off the bench, he's going to play about 25 minutes a night, along with Tim Hardaway Jr., who's going to play about 25. Bruce plays about 20. Jonas Valanciunas plays about 15. That'll be the expectation I have. And if you're the Nuggets, then you just got to find a way to continue to create good shots while playing harder on the defensive end. Like, it's the easiest way in basketball. It's the process they have to go through, and they have to start with game one. So we'll see if they can kick things off well on Thursday. We'll find out together. That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Nuggets. Not sure about Swipe's schedule over the course of the next couple of days, but I know that Matt and I will be back on Tuesday night, guaranteed. So we will be back at that point. And then once we get into the regular flow of the schedule on Thursday, Denver will play. And certainly Matt and I will have a reaction to that game that night. Should be fun, but everybody hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. Check out that Everydayer Club if you haven't already. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys very soon.